Well, it's Thursday afternoon here in Cancun while I'm making this video, and we're just a few hours away from the start of round 5 of this year's Rugby Championship. And I've got to tell you what, I am super excited because these games are going to be fantastic this weekend. We're all going to be sitting on the edge of our seat, I can tell you that one. And you're living in denial if you think your team's going to win easily this weekend, because it could go either way, and I think that's what makes it super special. Welcome to Inside Rugby with Mark. I'm a Kiwi rugby fan living here in beautiful Cancun in Mexico. And in this video today, I'm going to talk about the South African versus the Argentinian game that's taking place in Kings Park in Durban. So let's get into the preview show for that game right now. G'day everyone, welcome to the show. Usual stuff, if you like my content, hit the like button, give the video a thumbs up, share it with your mates, subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. And I'm going to talk about the beautiful game at Kings Park in Durban. Hollywood Bets Kings Park in Durban, I should be saying. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this episode is go through the two teams in the matchup side by side and most of the positions, and let you know my thoughts on who's going to come out on top. So let's look at the front rows first of all. And we've got, of course, that amazing South African front row of Oxenchair, Malcolm Marx and Thomas du Toit. And they're up against Vivas, Montoya and Sclavi. And I think the South Africans are going to come out on top on this one. And I think this is going to lead to some problems potentially for the Argentines, because I think we could see a number of penalties coming from the scrum, just like we did against the All Blacks and the South Africans in that particular game. So I think this front row is going to be a very important part of the game for the Springboks, particularly early in the game, and they're going to want to get on top of this Argentine forwards. So I'm giving the front row competition to the Springboks. I think they're going to be too strong in that particular department for this Argentine team. But Montoya, once again, can never be underestimated. Look at that great try he scored against Australia in the second game in Sydney. That was an absolute belter, that one, wasn't it? Okay, now moving on to the locks, and let's have a look at how they match up. And for South Africa, we're going to see Eben Etzebeth, of course, alongside Ruan Nortje. And for Argentina, we're going to see Paulos and Molina. Again, I've got to give this one to South Africa. I just think Ruan Nortje and Etzebeth, when it comes to the tight five and the line-out competition, they're going to be too good for these Argentines. And the Argentines are going to have to watch out. I think they're going to need to compete in the line-outs to try and disrupt the South Africans. I want to see more of that in this championship, because I think it's an underplayed strategy in the game so far. So let's see whether the Argentines develop that strategy and try and go for a win, or at least a disruption against the South African lineout. But I'm giving this particular matchup to the South Africans. I think they're going to be too strong for the Argentines in this particular area. Then let's look at the loose forwards, and boy, what a battle we're in store for here. This is going to be absolutely fantastic. Of course, South Africa have got Kolisi, they've got Pieter-Steph du Toit, and Jasper Wiese has come back in since that game in New Zealand. He's looking absolutely fantastic. But do not underestimate this Argentine back three. They're absolutely brilliant. Pablo Matera, of course, Marcos Kremer, and also Joaquim Oviedo. And I think they're going to match it with the Springboks back three. In fact, I think they might even edge it. And this is an area of the game where I give the Argentines a little bit of an advantage, because I just think they are going to be more mobile and faster. And I like the way that they play in open play as well. So watch for Oviedo and Matera particularly getting some good runs in open play. And that could set things up for the Argentine backline. And I think that's where they're a little bit more dynamic than the Springboks back three in the forwards. But we have seen Jasper Wiese going on some good runs. We know that Pieter-Steph du Toit loves hanging out in the outside channels, scores a number of tries in that position. So whilst it's very close, I'm just tipping my hat a little bit to the Argentines in this particular area. But if you look at the starting eights across the two teams, I've got to give it to South Africa. I just think they're going to be too strong over an extended period of time, and if they do get a hit on early against this Argentine pack, it could cause problems for the Argentines, as I say, particularly around discipline and also around penalties. So watch for yellow cards for the Argentines in the forward group. It could be a few problems for them there. But when it comes to the breakdowns, I think the South Africans have been struggling from time to time. I think with Jasper Wiese back in the team now, though, he's adding another dimension that they were missing out on before. and I think that's going to strengthen that area. So that's going to be an area of the game that I'm going to watch very closely this weekend, is the speed at the breakdown and also the accuracy at the breakdown, because I know how good Crema, Matera and Oviedo are. Okay, time to move on to the backlines now, and let's have a look at the starting 9 and 10 for each team. The South Africans, of course, are starting with Cobus Reinhardt, and at number 10, it's Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu, Mr. Creativity himself. And is he going to be able to play that game where he puts his selfish boots away and looks after the team effort first of all? Nothing wrong with Sasha going for a run and breaking through the line, but we've got to see this backline used to their optimal level, because it is a very stunning backline for South Africa. From Reinhardt, we're going to see some of those sniping runs for sure. He scores tries in a lot of games as well. He will indeed entice the loose forwards from the Argentine team to look out for him, and therefore that will open up gaps a little bit wider. And if Sasha wants to do those runs, then I think Cobus Reinhardt is the brilliant decoy for him to be able to do that. So the Pumas are going to have to watch their narrow defensive line, because they could get caught out by Reinhardt and also Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu. This is going to be a really interesting matchup. On the Argentine side, well, we're going to see Garcia again, and surprisingly, we're going to see Santiago Carreras in the number 10 jersey. Now, I say surprisingly because Thomas Albanos is back, available for selection, but he's not going to be starting this game. But this could change quickly if we don't see from Carreras the sort of play that we want from him, or the Pumas want from him. Then I think Albanos will be brought on, because he's going to be on the bench starting this game. So this is a really interesting pick from Contaponi. I think this came because Carreras has been playing so well. He's played well in all the games I've watched this year, and he's been kicking extraordinarily well. And I think that might be an important factor in this game as well, whether it be from the tee for penalties, but also in general play. Watch out for what Santiago Carreras is going to do. So the kicking strategy between these two 10s is going to be interesting to watch, and I'm going to give it to Santiago Carreras. I think he could be a little bit better under pressure than what we're going to see from Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu. But when it comes to creativity, I'm going to give it to Sasha over Carreras in this area. I just think he's got too many weapons. He's brilliant off both feet, as is Carreras at times, but I just think Sasha's got more ability to be able to break through the line on more occasions than what we're likely to see from Santiago Carreras. Okay, moving out to the midfield, and this is where it gets really interesting again. For the Argentines, we're going to see Santiago Choco Barros, and we're going to see Sinti. And for the South Africans, we've got Damian Deolandi coming back in this weekend, and he's going to be partnering up with Kanan Moody. Yes, no Jesse Creel in the South African team. So this is an interesting matchup, and I think that Choco Barros and Sinti are one of the best pairings in World Rugby in the midfield at the moment. They've got a very good understanding. They're very good on defence. Sinti's growing a little bit more into the game. He's growing on me as a fan a little bit more as well. And he's very, very good on some of these open, spontaneous plays that we see the Los Pumas backline getting together in many of their games. Choco Barros is big, he's beast-like, and he can get over the defensive line. He picks up injuries quite easily because of his tacking technique. He needs to watch that, because we don't want to see him have a concussion and go off the field. The Argentines can't afford to lose anyone in this particular team. That's my opinion. On the South African side, well, we know what we get from Damian Deolandi, and when it comes to Kanan Moody, we're seeing more and more expression from him, and I'm really pleased that Russie has decided to go with Moody again in the 13 jersey, because it gives the South Africans that extra pace and height out wide, and I think that's going to be important if we're going to see any high balls from the Los Pumas in this particular game. Okay, moving into the back three on both teams now, and we're going to see for South Africa Ethan Hooker, Cheslin Colby and Damian Willemse. And for Los Pumas at the back three, we're going to see Mateo Carreras, we're going to see Rodriguez Esgro, and we're going to see Juan Cruz Malia at fullback again. This is a really good back three for the Argentines, and they should not be underestimated in terms of their ability to score tries. I've talked about it before, how I really like the size and pace of Esgro. He's a big winger. And then on the other wing, they've got a little guy who's dancing on his feet, pretty much like a Cheslin Colby type player. So watch out for Carreras, because he can score tries from anywhere. And he's having a belter of a season this year. So he scored a number of tries, and he's also gained a lot of territory for the Argentines in the back. For the South Africans though, Ethan Hooker looks very impressive from what I've seen so far. A big guy with a lot of speed. And then we know what we're going to get from Cheslin Colby. So watch out for him for doing a couple of dancing little tricks, trying to get around his players. And Damien Willemse at fullback, just as dangerous as having him in at number 12. I think probably more dangerous. And he's got that great kicking boot on him as well. As far as the back three go, I'm going to give it to South Africa. I just think they've got a bit of pace that's over top of the Argentines, but also their kicking game could be a little bit better from the back as well. So watch out for how that goes. So matching up those two teams that are starting the game, I give it to the South Africans through their forward domination more than anything that they potentially have. But do not write off this Los Pumas pack. They will give it everything, and we saw a lot of heart from these guys against New Zealand in Buenos Aires in that second test match, and it was very, very impressive. We saw them also doing that fantastic tour to Australia, and only very unlucky to lose that first game in Townsville, and their forwards played very well in that game. We know the box forward level is another level. They'll need to see whether they can match it, and that's where one of the big question marks for me is over the Pumas team this weekend on whether or not they're going to be able to do that. Now let's have a look at the benches and see what's going to happen there. We'll start off with the front rows that are going to come on for both teams. And for South Africa, well, it just continues, doesn't it? We're going to see Jan-Henrik Wessels come on. We're going to see Boan Venter, and we're going to see Wilco Low. Now, what a three to bring on. Any team in the world would love to have these guys starting in their team, let alone coming off the bench. And then the other two forwards for South Africa, R.G. Schneemann and also Quagga Smith. So two of the best impact players there are in world rugby, in my opinion. And they are really going to have an impact when they come off the bench. Okay, now for the Pumas front row that are coming off the bench, Ruas, Wenger and Marchetti. I don't think they can match the Springboks team at all, so it's going to be interesting to see where Contaponi brings them on. What time of the game? How much game time are they going to get? Are they going to go a little bit deeper with their starting forward pack and see how far that can take them in the game and see how that's working out? Otherwise, we might see early changes from Contaponi. That could be something that he's going to do. But interestingly enough, he's gone for a 6-2 split. So he wants to obviously try and compete with the Springbok forward throughout the game. And that's an interesting take. So if we look at the other forwards that are going to come on for the Pumas, we're going to see Guido, Rubiolo and Juan Martin Gonzalez. And of course Gonzalez is a brilliant loosey that can play any of the back three positions, and he's very good in open play as well. Again, I think this is indicating that Contaponi is obviously very concerned about the South Africa forward dominance. And of course South Africa also has a secret weapon up their sleeve when it comes to their bench, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in a second. But as far as I'm concerned, as far as this bench impact goes, I think the Springboks have more talent and potential to come off the bench to make a difference in this game. I speak about it all the time. R.G. Schneemann, with his beautiful offloads and his line-out winning ability, did so well starting the game last time out against the All Blacks. And Quagga Smith, well, he's going to be on any bench in World Rugby because he's that good and he can play across so many different positions. Now, if we have a look at the backs that are going to come off the bench, it's an interesting story here as well from both teams. For South Africa, it's going to be Van der Berg, the halfback's going to come on. We're going to see Mani Lebok come on, and we're going to see Andre Esterhuizen, of course, who's got an asterisk next to his name because he can play in the forwards as well. So South Africa do have that 6-2 split available to them in this particular game. And for the Pumas, well, their two backs that are going to come off the bench are Benitez Cruz, the halfback, and it's Thomas Albanos that's back in the team after his injury. This is going to be really interesting. I think there's a concern around his fitness level at the moment, and that's why he's not starting this game. But let's hope he gets onto the field and does some good things for the Pumas, because as I keep saying, he is one of the best 10s in world rugby today, Thomas Albanos. He's got so many tricks up his sleeve, and I think what Contaponi's doing here is going to see how Santiago Carrera starts this game. And if there are any problems with the strategy being implemented from the Pumas, I think we'll see Thomas Albanos being injected into the game, so watch out for that. But when it comes to this bench, I think this is where the Pumas are lacking a little bit against South Africa, and this is potentially on paper where South Africa are going to win this game, in my opinion. They'll start with forward dominance up front in the early part of the game, and if they're still leading the game by the beginning of the second half, we'll see this bench come on, and I think that will be enough to get the Springboks across the line. I think if the Pumas are going to beat the Springboks in this game, they're going to have to score more than 30 points. And if they're going to score more than 30 points in this game, then they're going to need to get some quality ball. They don't have to dominate possession. They just need to get enough quality possession to get this very dangerous backline away, and we should never underestimate it. So I think it's going to be a South Africa win if they can get that forward control of the game and play the game the way they want. If it starts to open up, it gets spontaneous like we saw at Ellis Park between the Wallabies and South Africa, South Africa could be in trouble. The Springboks team has to defend very well against this Pumas team because they can run in tries from anywhere across the field. I think discipline is going to be huge in this game for the Pumas. They've got to make sure they don't get any yellow cards, keep the penalties to a minimum, as do South Africa, because they've been giving away a lot of penalties as well. And Santiago Carreras and Thomas Albanos are deadly with their boot from the tee. So watch out for discipline being very important throughout the entire game, and making sure the Pumas in particular don't go down to 14 or even 13 men throughout the game. So there you go, those are the matchups that I see, and I see which team is going to have the dominant area throughout those matchups. Let me know in the comments whether you agree with me or not, or whether you think I've missed out something that you would pick up on for this particular game. I think it's going to be a thrilling encounter. I don't think it's going to be a whitewash by South Africa at all. It's going to be interesting psychologically to see whether South Africa can bounce back after that great performance against New Zealand. Can they show consistency to be the best team around at the moment? Or are they going to have another lapse which lets Argentina show their brilliance out wide? Argentina have been used to a lot of close games in this Rugby Championship, and that might be in their favour. They know how to go down to the wire, even though they lost that one against Australia in Townsville, which they probably should have won. They were very, very close, and they were able to hold out Australia in that second game. So it's going to be really interesting, isn't it? Because both teams are coming off a win last time out. So one team is going to be having a back-to-back win, unless it's a draw, of course, which could also happen at Kings Park. But I'm picking that we will see a winner from one of the teams this weekend. Okay, that's my preview video for the brilliant game that's going to take place in Kings Park, Durban on Saturday. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this video, whether you agree with my comments, and let me know what ways you think either team will get some kind of dominance over the other in this weekend's game. Now, as soon as the game is finished at Kings Park, I will be doing a live chat, so jump on there on my YouTube channel and let's talk about the game as we saw it, when all the adrenaline and emotions are high. Of course, there'll be people talking about the referee and all the rest of it, but we can talk about the brilliant things that happened through the game, and I'll be there listening to all of your comments and reacting and answering any questions that you have. So remember, straight after the game, jump on the live chat and we can have a talk about the great game. Okay, that's it for this particular video. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to support the channel in any way you can, and I'll see you again very soon. We've got a very exciting weekend of rugby coming up, my friends, so let's get ready and get into it. Okay, it's time to say adios from beautiful Cancun in Mexico. Keep safe, keep watching your beautiful rugby around the world, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.